Hi everyone, thanks for coming out tonight. We're going to be discussing the financials of the district, and for those of you who don't know me, I am Leanne Martin, the Director of Business. And I just wanted to take a second to introduce our Assistant Director of Business, Steve Ritter, right there. We're excited to have him. He's now full-time with us. We've been sharing with Elko since he started, and he just finished his last day there. And we're super excited for the new year. We have lots of new ideas and implementations and analysis we want to get done. And we're looking forward to starting that off in January and being full-time together, fully staffed business office for the first time in over a year and moving forward. Okay. We'll get started. Here's the agenda for tonight. We're going to start off by reviewing the budget schedule, important dates for the board to know. The 17 to 18 budget to actual results, we'll review those. And the 18 to 19 revenue and expenses and how they're trending so far this year, as well as some historical data I'll have for you. And then we're going to talk about the 19 to 20 budget for next year, as well as some next steps and some direction and guidance that we need to create that budget from the board. Okay, these are important dates for the board to recognize. Tonight, they will be voting on the preliminary budget proposal, which basically gives the business office direction to advertise for the public notice of intent that you'll be adopting the preliminary budget in January, and that the budget will be available in January 10 days prior to voting for inspection, for public inspection. Then in January, like I just said, you will be voting to adopt the proposed preliminary budget for 1920. And then in May, you'll be approving the proposed final budget, and in June, you'll be adopting that final budget. And in between those January and May dates, we'll have another budget workshop or two. I'll be giving lots of information. We'll have a dialogue going back and forth. Last year, and I think I'll be doing that again this year, monthly updates at the board meeting on how the budget's going with some information. So lots of discussion and ideas flowing back and forth between the board and the business office for that. Okay, this is the 17 to 18 budgets. Budget to actual. We just got this back from the auditors. The numbers are almost finalized. We're still working on a few loose strings to wrap up with them. And as you can see in that third column there where it says 17 to 18 actuals, the district came in over budget on revenue and then just slightly at over 37 million. And then the district came in under budget on expenses at just under 36.5 million. And as you can see highlighted on this page is the variance. So there was an additional $929,000 in revenue, and then a savings of $898,000 on the expense side. In finance, we like to be as close to budget as possible, but if you're going to be off budget, these two ways are the best way you can go. The district, and I'm going to explain how we got some of these variances so that you understand where the numbers came from, and we have an understanding of what we're analyzing and what we're going forward to make changes in our budgets, because like I said, in finance we like to be as close to budget as possible. So the district for revenues had a one-time large commercial real estate transfer. That resulted in over $100,000 in additional tax revenue for the district. And then there's also a few signs that would point to an improved local economy for this area, and that was that we had higher income tax revenue collected for the district, as well as delinquent real estate taxes that were past due from prior years were paid at a higher rate. So a lot of individuals that owed back taxes paid those at a higher rate in this year and caught themselves up. As well as the taxes for the current school year in real estate, those were paid at a higher rate with less delinquents done. So those three things all netted together for some additional revenue and tax money. There was also a grant that came in that was not budgeted, so that added to revenue. And then lastly, the business office staff and I worked really hard last year on cash management, seeing which of our accounts had the highest interest rate, managing that money there until the last possible second, doing transfers over, and constantly every day looking at where our cash needed to be to get that high interest rate. And we generated an additional $100,000 above budget on interest revenue. And all of these things contributed to Northern Lebanon's revenue budget coming in exceeding the budget, which is a good thing. However, at this point, some of those things were one-time things, so I can't say whether they were a trend or not with their real estate taxes, higher income taxes, and obviously the transfer tax on commercial property is not a trend, and we have no idea when that will occur again. So those are just some things to keep in mind as we develop next year's budget. You know that these things happen, but we can't necessarily guarantee that they're going to happen in the future as well. And now to the expenses. I had said about this last year, and we continue to do this. One helped us, Steve is helping us in his new role, cleaning up the account structure, the account codes. We have many, many accounts. We have a lot of accounts that have budgets in them and no spending for the past couple of years, or vice versa. We have, you know, budgets that don't have a spending, and then we have accounts that have spending with no budget dollars. So when you have that kind of going on at the high volume of accounts that we have, it's really hard to do a good clean analysis and say what happened here, because like we can't just go back to our POs. We can, it's a large paper filing system, there's many of them, line item detail, and that's what we're kind of having to do and being forced to do, and we are doing it, but it's very time consuming is to look at things at line item when you're doing the budgets like this. But back onto the variance in the spending and why we had an $898,000 come in less than that is mainly due to health insurance. We had a good, healthy year for the school district mainly, and our health care costs were lower. Okay. And now, what does all that mean for the district's ending fund balance? That's what we all want to get to. So basically what that means is that the ending fund balance increased $523,883 over the course of 17-18. So in 16-17, our ending fund balance was the $4.4 million. At the end of 17-18, what we were looking at is the $4.9 million. And just a reminder that $500,000 of that ending fund balance is in a healthcare reserve account. And for those, I don't know if I said this or not, I see people taking notes, and I wanted to let everyone know that this will be available, the presentation, the PowerPoints will be available on the website by the end of the week under the business office. Here, I just wanted to go back over the ending fund balances and where we're at to start the 18-19 year, or where we were at. And like I said, the general fund balance had $4.9 million in it, with $500,000 being in healthcare reserve. Now, onto the food service fund, I think last year we had brought awareness to that it was a negative ending fund balance. It continues to be a negative ending fund balance. Last year, our food service did have $42,000 in the positive. So it was chiseled away a little bit, but obviously $42,000, and that was a good year. Going into $827,000 negative, it's just going to take a while. And last year, the board had given direction for an action plan to write off this food service negative balance over the course of 3 years. And we do have that plan for 18-19 as year one. So in 18-19, the board's budget includes $290,000 being transferred from general fund over to the food service fund to reduce that negative ending fund balance. And so when you see out there on the 2018-19 that the budget includes $39 million in expenses, $290,000 of that is being transferred to take care of this balance in the food service fund, as well as there's another $300,000 in the budgetary reserve account. So I just want to draw attention to those two items. And as we move on, I just want to go over, I know that years are confusing. Steve and I in the business office sometimes I'm like, wait, what year is this? Even in our accounting software. We are currently at this time of the year, every year, working with 3 years. So you have 17 and 18, we're just wrapping those up with the auditors, finishing all that stuff, and looking at where we came in. And then we have 18-19, which is our current year, where we're currently at, what we're doing things in every day, but we're also trying to trend that, anticipate where we're going to come out at. And then we have 19-20, which is the year we're doing the budget for. So those are the 3 years we're covering, and I just wanted to go over those as we get into these details, because I know it can get confusing. Like I said, Steve and I get confused on it sometimes every day when you're working with across the course of 3 different years. So right here, this kind of goes over this chart. The past, so it goes over last year, 17-18 to 18-19's year, where we came at in revenue year to date. So we ended on 11/30 versus the budget. So as you can see, we're at a very similar pace as last year. Last year we were at 63%, this year we're at 66% of our revenue coming in. And I just wanted to draw attention to one line there, which is the state revenue. Sorry, you see that 14 million on the second line there, the 7,000 state revenue? Almost half of that, so 7 million is our basic education funding. And we'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to draw attention to how much of our state funding comes out of that basic ed funding formula. And here's the same chart, but it's for expenses. So 17-18 to compare to 18-19 compared to their budgets. Year to date, November 30th. And as you can see, we are 31%, 31%. We are pretty much on a very similar track as we were for last year. I want to draw your attention to one line item on this, and I apologize if you can't see it because there's no way I could read that one down there. But it's this benefits 200 line. And going across, you can see last year, at this time, we were at the 2.9. This year we're at 3.6. So remember I said we had a really good year for expenses because we came in low on healthcare? That's our healthcare line. So as you can see this year, we are not trending quite as fair as we did last year. We're already at a $500,000 difference. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that and let you know we will be continuing to monitor this, watch the progress throughout the year, and reporting back to you how we're doing right there. Okay, now we all hear these words, the index, the Act 1, the millage rate, the adjusted index rate, so I wanted to go through those and provide a little bit of clarification and a little bit of background on them. So prior to Act 1 going into effect, which was obviously in 2006, school districts could go through and raise taxes at a much higher rate. You could hold off for a year or two and then jump up at a higher rate the next year. The state wanted to limit the burden on homeowners for those steep increases. So that's when they imposed this, this rule, this act. And now the state basically dictates to school districts how much you're allowed to increase taxes each year. And that is what we call our adjusted index rate. And ours for the Northern Lebanon's for the school year 1920 will be 2.8%. And above that you can see the millage rates that the district had for the past 2 years. And this index that the state provides to us takes into consideration the statewide average weekly wage rate, the employment cost index, and then each district's market value, income, and ratio. Those are all really confusing, lots of words, but good news is you can go out to the PDE website and they have those stats for the entire state school districts, and you can look at statistics all day long and have fun. Sure, go ahead.
Is that an increase of 2.8 for next year?
Yes, that would be a 2.8% increase to the millage rate. Now that's not like a tax rate. A lot of people sometimes you'll hear 2.8% and they think their taxes are going to go up by 2.8%. That's not quite what it is. It's actually applied an increase to the millage rate, which is applied to the assessed value of each house for each property. Okay, this next slide is Steve was really excited to see this, and he was actually the one who suggested I put this in there, so we can thank Steve for that, because I think it's a really neat slide. It shows some really good information. So it compares the millage rates for school districts in Lebanon County. And as you can see, Northern Lebanon is highlighted in blue, and we have the lowest millage rate in the county. And even if we took the maximum 2.8% that were allowed for the 1920 school year, Northern Lebanon would still be lower than all the other school districts' 18-19 year. You can see us right there, we're at the 13.5109, and you can see the next lowest one is Anvil at 14.1357.
How does that compare to income averages of people in the
Great point, it's on the next slide, so I'll get to that in just a second. So this average home value was researched and provided to me from the Lebanon County Assessment Office. They're really good to work with in there. And they gave us this value. So as you can see, the average home value in the Northern Lebanon School District in December 2018 is $175,000. And like I said, our mill rate is currently the lowest in Lebanon County. And going across here, you can see what the millage rate increases would do with the tax revenue. So at a 2.5%, it would be an additional $465,000, $942 to the district, and it would be an increase of $59 to the average homeowner in Northern Lebanon School District. Okay, and to answer Andrew's question, sorry, it was 2 slides ahead. Here is back to the basic ed funding formula. It takes into consideration all of these different ratios, gives them weighted averages, and puts them into a formula, and that's how the school district is awarded that $7 million with other school districts in the state. And so you go down to the median household income index. the state, and then it takes how the school district compares to state median. And the Northern Lebanon School District is above the state median for the income index.
Do you know what it is for the other school districts that you showed the difference of the milling rates?
That's what I'm getting to. I'm scrolling down on my notes. I know you're excited. I'm excited about numbers too. We're right there together. Okay. So Northern Lebanon is the third highest median household income in Lebanon County. Only Cornwall and Palmyra have a median household income higher than the Northern Lebanon School District. However, Northern Lebanon has the lowest local effort per that household.
Can you explain that one to me again?
Sure.
You said what was that, lowest?
Local effort.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah, so
So those
local,
like agencies you're saying?
I'm sorry, what?
Would that be like agencies, is that what you're gonna say? Like local effort?
No, local effort is the effort of each household paying into real estate taxes.
Oh, so like one person, provider of it, okay. Oh, wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah. Third highest in household income, lowest in local effort.
Does that mean the lowest, we have the lowest people that contribute, like the lowest amount of people working?
No.
Can you re-explain
Is that a divorce rate, or is that just one, you know what I mean? There's many contributors to that. Do they factor that in? I'm
Is
just
that
curious.
renters, is that homeowners versus how many people?
I'm not sure who all they take
Could it
into.
be, is that like something as well that could break it down, like if you have one homeowner paying the taxes there, but you have 6 people renting in there, but they have a higher income, or is that?
I'm not sure what the state does for this when they go out to get these numbers. I could look into that more and get back to you. But I just thought it was very interesting that we're the third highest median household income.
So, in my mind, if we have a higher median household income, I thought that our students have a pretty high rate of free or reduced lunch. Like we have a pretty significant proportion of our students that are living at poverty level. How do we compare to other schools?
When it comes to Lebanon,
Well, not
yeah,
like-
there's no, but I would have to get you the statistics for those.
Because is there a difference
Free and
between,
reduced, yes.
right, does median household income, it must match, right?
I wouldn't say that matches like number for number, like you might have a school district up in one and down in the other, but I would think that we would be pretty close in the same line. But I will research all that, because I can't say for sure. So I will get you guys the free and reduced rates for everyone in the county. I also wanted to just note that while we do have those two statistics that I just said, we're also spending the third highest per student in Lebanon County. So per student in our school district, our expenses are the third highest. So third highest. So out of 6, we're like right in the middle of spending per student.
So we're third highest income, third highest in paying for students, same.
But lowest millage rate.
I got that
Yep.
part.
Yep, we're like,
Got that part. I know.
Okay.
Thanks.
and like I said, all this stuff is out on PDE. There is just spreadsheets, and it's sorted by county. So all you have to do is Control F. That's your search in a spreadsheet. Type in Lebanon in the county line, and it's going to take you down to northern, like the Lebanon County. You can compare all the school districts with all the different statistics they have out there.
And Leanne, when you're talking about free and reduced, that's federal. That's the federal guidelines.
Right, like-
Where this is the state guidelines, and the free and reduced takes in more than just the capacity and the effort, I would think, because they consider how many people are in the home, they consider ethnicity, and those types of factors as well.
Yes.
If I'm,
Right, it's free and reduced lunch.
yeah.
That would be an interesting addition to that, to see where that fits.
I'll get you guys a nice little chart. Okay, so this is the historical data that we talked about. Some of these slides are very similar to what was last year, I just updated them with another year. So this is the PSERS contribution rates. As you can see, it was a steep incline. We're over the steep incline, but it continues to be an upward hill. This is one expense that the district, the board, has no control over. We're basically told what to pay in. Charter schools continue to be,
In that teaser, is there a
They haven't given us a cap, they haven't given us like, your max is gonna be 40%, you'll never pay over than that. They haven't given that to us. They did announce a change in PSERS, so we're hoping that that helps slow down the climb, but we haven't been given any guidance yet that I know of on, you've reached your contribution limit, you're good to go, so no. I would love that.
I have a question, this goes back a couple of slides, but I wasn't sure if we were supposed to ask questions or not. It was a slide where you were showing how much money we get federal, local, and state. And in the state column, right there, in state revenue 7,000. Last year it was 14 million. Why is it so significantly less this year at 4 million? Why is the state contributing so much less?
This right here,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting the break like that. That's where we, like, this is the budget for the entire year. This is where we were at in November 30th of 2017. This is where we're at November 30th of 2018 compared to the 18-19 budget. So actually, if you compare the two, 14.6 to 14.8, it was up. We budgeted $200,000 additional in state revenue. This is just where we're at year to date. Sorry.
We're at 4 million as of November, and the year's over in July, is that right?
It's kind of
June 1st. I mean, July 1st is the new year, so June 30th.
I misread the title of the column.
No problem. It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of data. It takes a little bit to get used to the charts I throw up. I think we were on the charter school one, Brad. Right there. And everyone, feel free to ask questions as we go throughout. I'll try to answer them the best I can. You don't have to hold it to the end because then sometimes you forget, and I don't want anyone to forget their question because they're all important. Okay, so charter school tuition rates. Northern London School District tuition rates for charter schools. This is what we pay. The top here is what we pay to the charter school. And these tuition rates are per student. So every single student of ours that is going to charter school, if they're non-special ed, we are paying $11,260 for that student for the year. If they're special education, we're paying $23,000 for that student for the year. You can go down. I have summed up our yearly expenses on this. As you can see, it's a gradual, in 16-17 we went down, and then it climbed back up in 17-18 at a much more gradual pace, and it looks to be doing the same, like it'll be a slight increase in 18-19. As of today, we have 54 of our students, Northern London students, enrolled in charter schools, and that is an increase of 2 students from when I gave this presentation last in March. We had 52.
And how many are special ed versus?
I'll get that for you. Got that, Steve. Thank you.
We'll take a look at that, something I want to look at, special ed numbers, because something we want to prevent. What's notorious for charter schools is when the student comes in as a regular student, it's not unusual to try to identify the evaluation, identify the child as a special ed student, so we get a little higher.
So not even 1,000. So they were increasing that this year. The millage.
So the charter schools are the ones that do the evals.
They can. Some of ours transfer over with an IEP, and then sometimes they'll get there and check.
They can identify as well.
Yeah, this is, charter school didn't matter if it's brick and mortar or side.
Right. There are a few brick and mortar that we have students attending.
So cyber school is a charter school?
Mm-hmm. Like Pennsylvania Cyber Charter School, I think is one.
So it looks like last school year we had almost 50 non-special ed kids that were charter schools and like 13 that were special ed. And this year, right?
We had a total of about 52 last year. It fluctuates every month. We do it by month. And we have sometimes our student leaves for a month and back, so it's very hard to track. But throughout the course of the year, it seems like an average of 52 students in charter schools total. And I'll get you the ratio of non-special education versus education for last year and this year. Okay. Sorry, I don't know that.
If you don't mind, I don't know, what are B3 numbers?
I don't have that information for you. Melissa did a presentation. Was that done for you guys last year on B3? I know Melissa had done a lot of work on it because I had helped her with some financials, and she had a presentation already.
She's supposed to bring
So if you guys
people
didn't see that, we can have her definitely.
B3,
pass on that information, so it was never done. Okay.
And V3 was designed to offset the 52, now 54 cyber charter school to try and keep them home within the district yet.
Correct. So, I mean, and we do have students in V3, so there is some savings there, which obviously it's less expensive to have them in V3 than charter school, and that was the intent, yes.
How many students are on V3?
Sorry, we break down the 261 that we're at year-to-dates for 2018, 2019, so year-to-date, starting at what month to now? What are we looking at a monthly? July 1st to now, till November 30th, so if we take that and then, so what are we looking yearly if that stays at it? Would it be, I'm not a math, that's what I'm trying to.
Well, right now, if we're just taking what we have now, 54 students, yeah, I don't have a calculator, but yeah, it would basically be 55 divided by July, August, 5 times 12.
It'll be more than last year.
It'll be more than last year. How much more than last year, I guess is where I'm trying to, how much significantly more or not significantly more? What is the?
Get to me around like 10,000.
About 10,000.
55,000 is 512, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one.
you're at 512. Yeah, those two numbers.
We, had a breakdown of V3, how many are V3, how many are charter, how many have gone V3 to charter. We get some more details, kind of, if that's gone up, I'd like to see where we're at with pulling back in our scale. So that would be something maybe that's just gone up, let's see why and what's going on.
Yeah, we can get you guys some data on that. Right, Melissa had a,
Yeah, well, that's
she's
why
got a
I was
slideshow
looking
on
at
it,
him, I
so.
should have said specifically to ask Mr. Trojan to kind of get us more of a separate.
How many students are in V3?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
I will try to get more, that's what I was requesting, a little bit more of a breakdown, because from last year to this year would be nice, so.
How many students did Melissa bring back from V3? Wasn't that part of her goal last year to get a stipulation or something?
I'm not sure on how many students came back to V3.
Okay.
And I'm not commenting on the goals of an individual employee, that's more personnel related.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Hmm.
Health insurance costs. Last year at the end of November, healthcare expense was at 1.2 million, and at the end of this November, it's at 1.7 million. I think I had gone over that this was already trending ahead, $500,000 more this year. This is obviously something we're going to continue to look at and watch through the year just to see, but you can see, according to this chart, and we only have 1 year fully insured on there, but going to self-insured is a good move. However, it's something that is continually needs to monitor because it can only take 1 year to have a really bad year. So we continue to look at that. We have the insurances in place for a stop loss when it gets to higher amounts, you know. And we work with the IU on that very closely, and Stout Advisors, who is our advisor for our health insurance. Okay, this one's my favorite because last year we came to you guys, we had this like beautiful little vehicle replacement schedule. Tim, Mason, and I, we had worked on this, and every year we were going to replace one vehicle. It was a beautiful plan. And then May came before we even finalized the budget, and life happened, as it always does when you have what you think is a wonderful plan. And in May, a student, the maintenance van broke down, and then within a week, their step van truck broke down as well. So it kind of like blew our nice little plan out of the water, but that's what happens. And so last spring, as you can see, down here we purchased a new student van. And then we had worked in the budget for 18-19 to purchase another student van. So I am happy to say that as of, the van got delivered yesterday, I think, the second one, we have 2 nice new shiny white vans for our students to be traveling in. It was something that was desperately needed if you look at these. They were older vans, they had high mileage on them. One of the vans was down to 8 seat belts instead of 9 for the students. So that's something that we're really proud of to be able to offer to our students, is that they have nice new shiny vans. And Mason, he altered his department, they worked together on a plan, because obviously they were down not just 1 vehicle, but 2 vehicles. So they worked on a plan kind of utilizing what they had. You know, some of the guys, they shifted to mail runs sometimes, and they were just really accommodating because they were on the same page that it was much more important to get those student vans than it was to get them a vehicle. So we have altered the plan, because that's what you do when life blows up and breaks down 2 vehicles in a week. So here is the new plan for us, and in working with Mason, they are still down a truck/van in their department. And the current truck that they have right now, it's called a box truck with a lift on the back, and excuse me, I'm not very familiar with these trucks, but apparently the truck that he has right now, the lift, isn't strong enough to lift up a skid full of paper, which was what it was, our skid full of supplies. So this truck isn't even being able to be utilized to what they would want to, which is to deliver supplies, because the guys have to manually unload them and put them into the truck anyway. We have a skid loader back here at the dock that they could just drive on and put the things on, but it's not up to code on the weight bearing limits, and Mason's not gonna do that when it's not what it's designed for and it exceeds the weight limit. So he has put in that they would like to trade that in and get another box truck that does have, that can be better utilized by his department. And he said that they can get by without replacing that number 14, the step van, if they could just have a box truck that would work and be able to be utilized with the weight limits that they want. He's got an estimate for that. He would like to, they would be trading in the 2005 Ford and getting the new box truck that would work for what they need, and that would be a cost of $50,000. And that is something that we are going to work into the 1920 budget. And I will keep all the special editions like that, just like we did last year on a spreadsheet where you can see line item, and cost. And if we need to wipe something out, we can. But that is something that's really important to the Buildings and Grounds Department. Okay, moving on to our next steps with the 19 and 20 budget and getting into that and what we're moving for. My goal, I believe it's the board's goal, is we want a balanced budget. Balanced budget is where your expenses equal your revenues or your revenues exceed your expenses, not vice versa. So that is our goal for the 19-20 budget. I think we're on the same page with that. And obviously we need to discuss how we're going to get there. Because as we all know, the last 2 budgets have had a deficit in them, and we don't want to continue to move forward in that. And if we do have to move forward with a deficit budget, we would like to see it decrease every year. So 19-20 budget next steps. Thanks. Okay. The revenue. So I think we need to increase revenue, lower expenses. That's how you get to that meeting there in the middle, which is called the balanced budget. One of the ways that we are going to be doing it is investing some of our money. Steve's working on the cash flow right now, so we can see, where do we need our cash, when do we not need our cash, what can we invest, what are the amounts that we can invest. We're working with our financial advisors. Where's the best place to invest this? Where's a good interest deal for us? We are looking into that as we are currently, and our goal is that by spring, we have an investment plan coming forward to bring to you. Obviously, another way to increase revenue is your tax increase. Like I said before, the index is 2.8% this year. And obviously, grants, we're always looking for those. We apply for the ones that we can. I know you all are aware that we applied for the safety one, things like that come up. We will continue to apply for every option that we have available to us. Expenses, one thing that Steve and I sat down, and I've talked to the administrators about this, we're on the same page, is you had going back to that slide where it was the state revenues. The one for expenses, we had it broken out by object codes. The 100 and the 200s are your salary and your benefits. Obviously, we'll be increasing those per contract, per what PSERS tells us, per what our health insurance dictates. So those ones will be increased. But we've talked to administration, and we are going to do a no increase on object codes 3 to 900s. So their budgets from 18-19 will be the same budget amounts that they have in 19-20. We're going to hold on that, so there won't be an increase in spending on all the discretionary items. And then also we have some ways to cut expenses. I will be emailing to the board tomorrow. We have a draft document of 500 different ways that we can cut expenses to go over. And on that, I am going to then meet with the administration and a cabinet meeting, and we're going to go through each of those 500 line items. It's going to be a great meeting. They're going to love me for it. And we're going to go through each line item and talk about what's already being done, what we can implement, what are we doing, but maybe we can do a better job at it. And we're going to put a status update for each one of those 500 items, and we'll give you guys that update. So It's gonna be fun for you guys and fun for the administration. Okay, and these are some items that I just wanted to bring up for discussion that I kind of need some direction, some input from. Steve and I, when we're creating the budget, we need to kind of know where to go with these things. Now, these aren't things that I'm expecting an answer for tonight, obviously. They're just some items that we wanted to bring up for discussion, have input from everybody in the room. So the first one is transportation. The contract ends this June, so June 2019. Our contract with our current transportation vendor ends. And currently we have it that we have a contractor who takes care of our scheduling, our bus routes. He handles all of that. So in order for me to go out to bid for this, I'll need to know direction on whether you're going to want an in-house transportation coordinator or director, or whether you would like to go with the same model we have where it's handled by an outside contractor. The second item is athletic director. Currently we have it as a part-time position with a stipend. We need to give some consideration on whether we'd like to continue with that model or whether we'd like to look at having someone full-time, or whether we would just like to maybe modify the part-time position that we have. So we just need to give that some consideration and give me some direction so I can know what number to plug into our budget. And then also the V3 program. We can have a slide presented from Melissa. We talked about that already and where we would like to move forward with that.
You know the numbers for the V3 program? If we have it in-house versus outsourcing?
Those numbers are, Melissa's done a lot of work on that and she has those. So we'll get that information to you guys. I thought you already had them. I apologize. Questions or any input on those discussion items? We'll take now.
I'm going to jump in real quick just because I think you recall last year when we were passing the budget, I put a lot of work into it. I called the county and I called you because I was trying to put numbers together and it was very, this is crazy because I keep hearing we're the lowest taxed mill rate. It's coming back to me. One thing that I found unsettling, I guess, which was one of the reasons I voted no, is that our average salary in northern Lebanon has gone down more than the tax raise that we were looking at going to. I don't know where that's at as of right now because that was back in early spring when I had made that phone call. So it was the woman I had spoken with, because I was trying to understand this, and I would kind of break it down with like median income versus salaries and what we're looking at. She had actually led me to something, and thankfully I saved it and bookmarked it. I'm gonna roll some names out and some numbers, and maybe that'll help dumb it down for some people because it sure helped me. Okay, so we have 5 people, Northern Lebanon: Homer, Ned, Edna, Marge, and Maud. Homer earns $20,000, Ned earns $30,000, Edna earns $40,000, Marge earns $50,000, and Maud earns $60,000. The median household income would be $40,000. Edna is the middle. But now suppose that Homer and Marge get married and Ned and Maud get married. We now have only 3 households. Edna by herself at $40,000, Homer and Marge making $70,000 in household income, and Ned and Maud making $90,000. Now the median household income is $70,000. No one has gotten a pay increase. No one's income has gone up. They probably have more bills now. I think anybody that's gotten married does have more bills. So a median income can change, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we have a rich area. And it can also be a very vast difference of where that median. It's also considered one household. So that could be anybody above the age of 15 living in a household. So that could be your mother, and now your father moved in with you and he still has an income, which is Social Security, but now it's considered an income. So I just want to put it out there that I don't want to sound, I know we need the money for the kids, but I think it's a lot more than just little mill rates and little things. And I do encourage every board member, like call Leanne, I did it, call the county office, look into like what our actual incomes are. Because like I said, I don't want to put things like computers in kids' hands if they can't go home and afford to have internet for it. So if we're going to keep moving up, which I want to see us do, I just want to always keep in mind that we do have a very off balance of kids that have things and kids that don't. And I just want to make sure, just moving forward this year, we really do keep that in mind, because it is a very 2 different areas of families here. So that's, I was just remembering that because it was bookmarked when I made those phone calls. So.
I have a quick question on the V3. Maybe you mentioned it when I was signing that paper. The V3, looking to outsource it to the IU, would we then have to pay them that rate that we pay, or would it be like the 11,000 for a regular ed student, or would it be less?
I don't want to answer the pay structure was not the same as what you would pay for a charter school student. It was based on number of students, hours for number of classes. It was a totally different fee structure, was how it was.
It would be a savings.
No, it wouldn't, because.
Well, not with the V3, right, but I mean.
But not only that, they still have the option to go to a separate cyber or separate charter away from the IU. So you're still going to be, you're actually paying more.
Well, what I'm saying is that if what the IU is offering is better than what we're offering, that would give us maybe the ability to get back some of these 50-some students that are going through the.
It could be, and the IU doesn't necessarily cost more than what we're currently paying. There has to be a whole big analysis done on that, and I know Melissa had started that. What we're paying hourly per teachers to do this, have the classes, things like that. So it's a whole different fee structure, and it's definitely not the per student like what you paid at a charter school.
That 500, the ending fund balance that you showed for last year, I believe it was 4.9, or 4.4 is 2 years ago. This past year, 2017, it was 4.9. And then you had the, underneath it in smaller writing, 500,000. Is that 500,000 in that number, or is that number without already?
No, that is included. So the 4.4, $500,000 of that 4.4 is in a healthcare reserve.
Yeah. So it would actually be like 3.9.
Correct.
And then where I'm going with that, we've been taking that 500,000 out, I believe, like 3 years now, maybe. Right?
We don't, look, you want me to just explain it? We don't take it out. It's not like we're every year paying another $500,000. That $500,000 was taken out and put into an account, and it's just $500,000 plus interest. So technically, I'm sorry, it is a little bit more than $500,000. It's earned interest over the past 2 years, but it is $500,000 in a separate savings account, if you will.
And that's what I was trying to get at for myself, the board, and the public. That 500,000 each year, if we take that out, say for 3 years, that's 1.5 million, but we've been earning interest on it, and that's actually somewhere, like we have that somewhere if we would need it.
Right, but it's not 1.5 million. It's $500,000 static. So these are balance sheet numbers, and a balance sheet is a snapshot of time, if you will. So it's $500,000 here, here, and here. It's not $500,000 every year.
So we haven't taken 500 out every year.
No, it's just that $500,000 continues to sit there in that account and just grow with interest.
So in 2016, 2017, we did or didn't take out 500 to put in a separate?
We did not. It's, well, I think it was was it taken out in 15, 16? I forget what year it was.
So it was only taken out one time and now it's.
It was a one-time thing, and it just continues to sit there, and we have to make note of it because it's not the ending fund balance that you can spend or use.
How much interest has been earned on it?
I don't have that number off the top of my head.
That was helpful for me, because I was under the impression that they were taking 500 out each year. That was a lot. Less than two. So it was a one-time, we pulled out one time.
That's not what she said. That's not what she said.
We got it. All right, thank you all for attending and discussing the school district's finances with us tonight, and I look forward to getting some input from you guys on those few things so that we can finalize up the budget for you guys, the preliminary budget for January. start like a week or two at the most, before Christmas break. I need to have the budget pretty much done at that point, available for public inspection.